Okay, so what we're going to do is upgrade the firmware on our IEQ30 Pro. And I'm actually going to do that from the Nook itself. So what I've done is I have a VNC connection into Nook, and I am controlling that right here. So you could have a monitor and a keyboard attached, or you can VNC like me. You could also go through Secure Shell for most of it, although we will use the browser at some points. So we'll rely just on the Nook. I clicked on the application menu down there, and now I'm typing TERM for terminal. So I want to open up a terminal. I'm going to click in the corner there and make it full screen, and then I am going to make it big so that you can see it there. So perfect. Okay, should be able to see that perfectly. So one of the things we need to do is, first of all, I'm going to open up Firefox. I'm going to click on the icon. And we are going to go to the iOptron website once that comes open. So I'm going to close that background tab right here. And then I'm just going to go to ioptron.com. Make their site a little bit bigger too if I can. What we're looking for is this support link right here, right underneath the logo. So I'm going to go ahead and click on support. And what you'll see, oops, I clicked off of it, sorry. So I clicked on support, and then I've got a couple of links over here. What I want is firmware/software. That'll take me to a big old list of a whole bunch of items, but we want the IEQ30 Pro and the IEQ45 Pro. Clicking on that will take us to a list of all of the different firmware dates. These are pretty recent. It's now July, so it's 07 of 19. So we're going to need to update all of these according to the firmware that we looked at on our hand controller. So I'm going to start all of these downloading actually. Just clicking on it, hitting save file, the hand controller. We will want the main control board, the RA deck control board, where we had the RA, excuse me. Now we want the deck control board. This one's the upgrade history, which we could look at if we want. Here are the upgrade instructions. I'm going to open that link in a new tab so we can follow along. And then I'm going to get this upgrade utility. This upgrade utility is a .exe file, so I'm going to click on that and click save file rather than default open. And that's because I don't yet have a way to deal with the files, with Windows files inside of Ubuntu here. So what we want to do is use wine in order to do that. So what I'm going to do is type sudo apt update, just to update all my package indexes, and the two ampersands, and sudo apt install wine. And you could read about wine if you Google for wine HQ. But it allows us to run Windows executables of various flavors. So we're going to try that in order to update this mount. So enter my password and click enter, and let it. So now it's doing the sudo apt update portion of the website. And now it's looking for a candidate for wine to install. And you can see it's offering me either wine stable or wine development. So this time I'm just going to do sudo apt install wine development to get the newer version. And this comes back to me with a big old list of items, 169 new items, 105 megabytes. It'll take almost a gig afterward. So not ideal. We're going to click that to let it go, and we have a fast connection, so it'll go fast. But ideally, maybe if you had a Windows laptop or something already existing, you could just download those utility files and those other files. In fact, let's take a look at this while this is installing. I can click my file browser icon. And I can click on downloads, and inside downloads I can see I have this upgrade utility exe, and then I've got the 4 files that I'm going to update. Now clicking back to my browser, what I want to do is actually then look at this next tab, which is the PDF of how to upgrade the instructions. It says IEQ45 Pro at the top, but they're the same thing for the 30 Pro. So we're going to follow these directions here. And what it's saying here is there's a couple of main files of what you'll need. The upgrade utility, which we got. A hand controller we have plugged in. The hand controller firmware we downloaded. The main board firmware, and then the RA firmware, and the deck firmware. So flipping back over to my file browser, we can just confirm that. Mainboard, hand controller, mainboard, RA, deck. And we're going to do them more or less in that order. The hand controller first, and then the mainboard, and then the RA and the deck. So it says manually set the mount to 0 position using set 0 position. So this is, we want to get the mount basically vertical, so completely upright. So you want to make sure that's happened first. And then what it's going to describe is how to find the correct serial port. From Linux, that's not as much of a problem for us, but when we open up the command, once we get wine installed, we'll see what option that looks like in this command. And then it's describing the setup for the USB to serial that we should have, and all the way down here is where it's describing how to find the correct COM port. So we'll look at that a little carefully when we are done installing Wine, which let's check on that now. So it is all done. Oops, I was going to type rehash, but we should now have something called Wine. We have various Wine files, which is great. So now if I go back over to my file browser and click upgrade utility, actually let's close this down and then open it back up again and see if they give us different options. So still no, so I'm going to right click it. It says open with other application. I'm going to do view all applications and see if Wine appears in here. It does not appear yet, so I'm going to close this down. And I'm going to go to downloads and then type LL. And I can see my various files here. So if I type wine, well, let's just type wine upgrade utility and see what happens. So it's running the wine configuration the first time, basically, is why a lot of those things weren't appearing. So it should be running through the configuration, although it's saying it cannot load wine gecko. But we'll give this a minute and see if it finishes up. There are some other things called like wine tweaks, which is software for Ubuntu that makes it a little bit easier to use some of the time. So as that's loading, what we're going to do is flip back to the file browser, taking a look at the instructions. Oh, so here's the utility that popped up. Actually, the COM port is highlighted right now in this utility. So clicking on this utility, basically what we're going to do for each one of these is click Browse, and then we'll need to locate our actual files, which I think are in the Z directory. So again, I went to my computer, I went to Z, which maps to my root directory, and then I can go to Home, PANOPTES, Downloads, and we can see my various bin files that are right here. So if the first one I'm going to do is the hand controller, what I could do is load that up, hitting open. But the question is, what is my COM port here? And we might just have to discover it. It might not say, because we don't have the same options to view as what's given in these instructions here. It tends to be the last one or the first one. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the end. But let's flip back to the instructions and read first what it says. So first it's saying download the software and the firmware. We've done that. Please ignore any prompt or error messages. So it tells us to ignore errors. Great. So make sure the correct COM port is selected. So connecting the 84.7 hand controller. So connect the hand controller to our mount. We have that connected. Check. Make sure the mount power is off. Now, I'm going to just do this manually by flipping the mount toggle button. So P's shell has power turned on to the mount, and I am just physically toggling the handle that's there. So my 4-port pin is connected to the hand controller. And then what it actually wants us to do this time is, because this is, we need to make sure that our mount is connected to the computer itself, to the Intel NUC. So in addition to the hand controller, what this is saying is we want our RJ9 plug into the hand controller and into our computer itself. So the USB that normally would be going into the mount from the NUC is what we now want to take and do directly from the NUC itself. So I'm actually going to go hook that up, and then we'll start up in the next video. So